What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for December 9th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of Victory Monday, the 9th straight Victory Monday, or Tuesday, or Friday, Saturday, whatever we want to call it. Doesn't feel much like a victory, though, so I guess let's just get right into it. Eagles did win 22-16. It wasn't pretty. I think that might be the understatement of the day. And it was one of those games. It felt as though they could get caught here. Give credit to the Panthers. They had a good game plan. That young team came ready to play. And shame on me for losing that bet. As it grew, 13.5, I think it was 14 at some point by the start of the game. It just felt uncomfortable. All the Super Bowl talk, maybe I thought they were going to come out and play better. But it was a tough game, and they continued to get off to the slow starts. Passing game looked out of sync, and I got to be honest, I think I haven't really watched much post-game stuff. It took forever to get home through the subway, so I didn't really listen to much. I will go back today and rewatch some of the game. But from where I was sitting in the stadium, it did look, Jalen didn't play well. Did not play well. It did look as though the Panthers were doubling and providing a lot of help on AJ and Devontae. However, I will say at one point, there were a couple times that I did see AJ break routes inside when if he'd have went outside, he's going to beat the outside corner, and he took them inside. So I don't know if that is what being out of sync. I don't know if that is Kellen Moore's play calling. I'm not sure if it's him and Jalen not being on the right page, but there were a couple times, and you saw it, like he cut it inside, and if he just did a fake and went out and up, he had it there. So certainly, excuse me, certainly some things to fix this week heading into the game against Pittsburgh. But it just was for lack of a better way to put it, just an icky feeling about that game. Luckily, they were able to win it. Would not have been the least bit surprised if they lost it. If Leggett hangs on to that ball, they lose. So thank goodness for that. But as Andy Reid used to say, anytime you win in the National Football League, it's a good thing. The Eagles win. They're 11-2. One more quote-unquote tough game left. But, I mean, if you're going to struggle like you did yesterday against the Panthers, I don't think you can take any one of these teams for granted. I don't know. Like I said, I'll go back through some of the interviews and post-game comments and rewatch. But that was sort of my takeaway, was Jalen just seemed out of sync and not on the same page. And AJ, like I said, there were a couple times where he cut it in. And that's really who I was watching. I didn't really notice much. And I'll go back, like I said, I'll go back and look with Devontae. But it just not good. I think the defense played solid, not the dominating performance I think I was expecting, but they held Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard to pretty much containing them. I know Hubbard had some decent plays, but I think overall they played well. If we go back and revisit the three keys to the game, did they get off to a fast start? Not even close. It's like they're allergic to the first quarter. Whatever they're scripting, that needs to change. Like, the script is just not working. And it is concerning that you can't get off to a fast start against a team like the Panthers. You start doing that against the Lions, the Vikings, or even the Steelers next week, you could be in trouble. Dominate both lines. I think the offensive line played well. Saquon had 124 yards rushing, set the Eagles' single-season rushing record, breaking Shady's record that he set, I believe, in 2013. Defense, like I said, they got some pressure on. Didn't wrap up tackling from what I saw as much as I would have liked to. But but I think overall the defensive line played well, so I think we hit that one. And play like a super team, and that does not look like a Super Bowl team the way they played yesterday. But again, the Panthers did this to the Chiefs. The Panthers played tough against Tampa Bay. You're not going to be great every single week. So what does this all mean? Pretty much nothing. I really do. I think a win is a win. I'll go back and look at some of the things. I do think Jalen needs to get more in sync with the receivers, and I don't know if the pendulum now has swung so far toward them being a rushing team that we got to kind of bring back some of the pass. I don't know. Like I said, I want to go back, watch some of the post-game interviews, rewatch some of the parts of the game that I want to see, because maybe there was something with those AJ routes that I was missing in the stadium, but it certainly looked like he was able to do it. But I still think this team is a Super Bowl contending team. Games like this happen in football. That's why they call it any given Sunday. Any given Sunday, something like this can happen. They were fortunate enough to win. I think because they're a good enough team, that's why they were able to win. Certainly not the perfect game, but I think you take the win, you move on, and then you start worrying if the trends continue. So I'll have more on this game tomorrow once I'm able to go back and watch some of the post-game stuff, rewatch some of the game. But I always like to come on the day after a game just with raw what my thoughts are, what I saw without the least amount of outside influence. But that's kind of where I see it. I think the defense was solid. Not their best game, but certainly kept the team in it. But something with Jalen is just they just were out of sync. And again, maybe it's because they went so far to the side of being a running team that something got lost. But I do feel it's something that can be cleaned up. So again, have more on that tomorrow. But Eagles win 22-16, move to 11-2. We lose the bet. We move to 7-6. Still in the black there, but just barely. But there's still a lot of football left to be played. But that brings us to today's question of the day. And who is the GOAT of the game? Was it Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, or C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who had himself a really good game, gave us a little bit of a scare, but came back in the game? But who's your GOAT of the game? Call or text me on the Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Get that, your thoughts on the game, thoughts on Jalen, AJ, the defense, Jake Elliott, who still seems to be struggling, Nick Sirianni's coaching decisions. I think kind of surprised he punted when he did, but it seemed to play the way it should have been. But let me know your thoughts on that. But who's the GOAT of the game? Saquon, Devontae, or C.J. Gardner-Johnson? Get those votes in. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mott on Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, and continue to spread the word. Let's grow this thing. Big things happening this week. Stay tuned for that. As always, we're featured every now and then in the On Pattison newsletter, so go check them out. But thank you for your support, and let's continue to grow this thing. All right, still time to donate to our gift and food drive. Getting donations. I have so much food and stuff here just stacked behind me in the living room. It's great to see. So let's continue to get those donations in. If you don't want to donate any actual items, if you just go to the description, there's a link for the GoFundMe, and I will make the purchases either at Target or Sam's or BJ's or wherever we can to maximize your donation. And if you are doing the reverse advent calendar, today's item of the day are graham crackers. So graham crackers are today's reverse advent calendar item of the day. 25 days of kindness. Thank a veteran. Veterans Day was about a month ago, but thank a veteran or someone who's currently serving and just say thank you for their service and for allowing us to be able to do the things we can do. All right, some wrongs were righted yesterday, and I did not expect this vote to be public this soon. I thought it was, I guess the official announcement will come on in January, but finally Dick Allen was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Long overdue. Congratulations to his family. Great to see. And I, like I said, the dude was just an absolute stud. And to finally, unfortunately, he's not around to see it. But shout out and congratulations to his family. But Dick Allen, the Classic Era Committee, finally did the right thing. Dick Allen goes in with Dave Parker, who's another deserving player. But this is a Philly sports podcast, and Dick Allen is in the Hall of Fame finally. We'll have more on that as the stories and everything come out. But congrats to Dick Allen and his family for finally getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, righting a wrong that has been just wrong for so many years. And if that was the good news, the bad news is, I think almost as expected, Juan Soto is going to the Mets. Ridiculous contract. But the Mets being the Mets, they're going to Met, and somehow this is going to blow up in their face. So stay tuned for that. All right, Sixers. All of a sudden, they're hot. They won in Chicago yesterday, 108-100. Joe played 33 minutes, had 31 points. Tyrese Maxey had a triple-double. And they actually looked like a decent team. They've won now 4 out of 5. And say what you want about anything with Joe. When the dude comes to play, he comes to play. And this could be the start of something, because the way they can ease him in now, they only have 2 games over the next 10 days or something. So there's plenty of time for him to sort of, as they like to say, ramp it up. But I mean, that was the best they've looked by far all season. And what's frustrating is that's how they could look all the time if they could just figure out a way to stay healthy and all that other stuff. But Sixers win. Joe looked good in his return, and it's going to be an easy next 10 days or so, or 20 days, whatever it is, 10 days. They only have 2 games, so there's plenty of time for them to rest and maybe ramp it up. Maybe. I know it's Christmas time. The Charlie Brown Christmas is on, and I know I'm setting myself up again, but I'm starting to see that football out of the corner of my eye. So we'll see. But good win for the Sixers. They've won 4 out of 5 now. All of a sudden, they're right back into the thick of the playoff race. They go from being in the lottery talk to all of a sudden being, I think they're like a couple games out of the 5th seed, which is absolutely bonkers to me. But, well, here we are. Flyers, unfortunately, lost 4-2 to the Utah Hockey Club. Just a sloppy game, not like the Flyers. Gave up 3 goals in the second period. Just didn't have it. Just didn't really have the energy and things like that. I don't know if they were too much with the Eagles or what. But Flyers lost 4-2 to the Utah Hockey Club yesterday. Time is running out. It's not too late, but time is running out to get your items from Philly Goat in order for them to be delivered by Christmas. Go check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. They have the Saquon shirts. They have the coffee. They have the cooler bags. You name it, they got it. So go to Philly Goat. You have about 2 days left, I think, or a day left to order before you can get guaranteed delivery for Christmas. Check out my boys at the Clash and Conferences. Should be a good one this week. That's available wherever you get your podcasts as well as on YouTube. All right, today we're going to go back to 1982. And on this day in 1982, the infamous 5-for-1 trade happened. Von Hayes was traded by the Cleveland Indians for Jay Baller, Manny Trillo, Jerry Willard, George Vukovich, and Julio Franco. Everybody just called him 5-for-1. And Hayes, believe it or not, it's often regarded as one of the worst trades in Philly history. However, wasn't necessarily as bad as everyone made it out to be. It's just when you give up 5 players for a guy, you expect more production than what Von Hayes actually gave you. But he did play better than Julio Franco for the 5-year stretch after the trade when Julio was still on Cleveland. So Julio bouncing around for a lot of teams, played 23 years for 8 different teams. He did become an all-star 3 times, won a batting champion. I don't know, like if you compare it just on that, then the Phillies did not make out on that trade. But during that stretch when Julio was on Cleveland and Von Hayes was on the Phillies, Von Hayes did outplay Julio Franco. However, I don't know if it's a fair comparison because all things considered, maybe Julio Franco does stay with the Phillies. Maybe he doesn't turn into the player he was. But would he have stayed? You could have had an infield of Julio Franco and Mike Schmidt, and even going a little bit crazier, and you never traded Ryan Sandberg. You could have had Mike Schmidt, Julio Franco, Ryan Sandberg as your 3 infield spots. But who knows? But often, like I said, often considered one of the worst trades in Philly sports history. I don't know if it's the worst, but I think the fact that you traded 5 players for Von Hayes, I mean, and you saw that list. Other than Julio Franco, none of those guys. Manny Trillo was near the end of his career. I think the other guys played in the majors, but they're not moving the needle either way. But anytime, like I said, you get 5 players for 1, you expect more production. But that happened on this day in 1982, the infamous 5-for-1 Von Hayes trade. Traded from Cleveland to the Phillies for Jay Baller, Manny Trillo, Jerry Willard, George Vukovich, and Julio Franco, who would become the best of the bunch, make a couple All-Star games, win a batting title, and would have looked good at shortstop. And who knows, maybe he would have ended up playing into 93 and playing with those guys. That would have been a fun team. But on this day, Phillies traded for Von Hayes, trading 5 players to the Cleveland Indians, and the rest, I guess, as they say, is history. And then finally today, forgotten Philly sports teams, going arena football, the Philadelphia Soul. The Soul were around from 2004 to 2019. Had a little cup of coffee in 2024, but I think the league never got up and off the ground. But the original Soul, the one that was owned by Bon Jovi, Ron Jaworski, gave us lots of hope in a time when we were constantly falling short with Andy Reid in the NFC Championship games. The Soul were one of the best. They were a very well-run organization with Jaws and Bon Jovi, and did win the championship 3 times. They went to They won 4 conference championships. So they went to 4 Arena Bowls, winning 3. They were in the playoffs 11 times. And they were supposed to come back before the league folded again this year. But they did well in Philly for being such a big Eagles town. They were a big draw. A lot of people talked about going to the games and things like that. But they, like I said, they gave us some hope, gave us something to sort of watch when the Eagles were disappointing us in the spring. But the Philadelphia Soul are today's forgotten team in Philadelphia sports history. 3-time Arena Bowl champions and owned by legend Ron Jaworski, and ran them pretty well, like I said, winning 3 championships. On this day in 1982, Phillies traded 5 players for Von Hayes, often regarded as one of the worst trades in Philly sports history. If you take a closer look at the numbers, it really wasn't as lopsided. It's just the fact that it was 5 guys, and one of them happened to be a future batting champion and 3-time All-Star. But we'll have more on the Sixers and where they go from here. We'll have more on the Flyers as they go. I'll do more research on rewatch some of the game and check out some of the post-game things to kind of put a bow on the Panthers and just move on, because I think this is one of those games you don't want to dwell on it. We're going to drive ourselves crazy, I'm sure, on the radio today. It's going to be I'm sure Twitter's going like this now, skewering Jalen, probably skewering the coach, questioning why we're not throwing to AJ and are they not out of sync. And I'm actually, my biggest thing, I want to see those routes that he cut off, because there was a couple times they had safety help over the top and he wasn't going deep. but there's a few times he had kind of just man on man that he could have gone deep and didn't give Jalen a chance to find him. So anxious to see how this plays out, but we'll have more on that tomorrow. But a win is a win, as Andy Reid said. Anytime you get a win in the National Football League, it's a good thing. I think he would always say, it's hard to win in this league. So the fact that we got to win anytime, that's a good thing, and I'll put the players in a better position. But let me know who your go to the game is. Is it Saquon, Devontae, or CJ Gardner-Johnson? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. But it is a Victory Monday, believe it or not. Even though it doesn't feel like one, it is a Victory Monday. So go have yourselves a Monday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for December 9th, 2024. It got me so messed up, I don't even know what day it is. December 9th, 2024. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.